coming today to join us in celebrating the life of my dad. I feel sorry for anyone who is not gathered here with us today. I feel a little sad for those who knew my dad but are not able to be here because of life circumstances. Anyone whose life was touched by my father would have wanted to be here today. The group I feel truly badly for, however, is the countless number of people who never had the opportunity to meet him. These are the people who really missed out. My dad was known by many aliases: Robert, Bob, Bobby, Uncle Bobby, Dr. Bussell, Doc, Grandpa, and of course Dad. When I think about it, he was a little bit like a natural wonder of the world. People's lives felt more complete simply by having the good fortune of experiencing him in person. His passing will create a hole in the lives of many people, even in those who may have only met him for minutes at a time, as he greeted them in the doorway or flirted with them in a restaurant. A year ago, my brothers and I went out to dinner at a restaurant near my house, and to this day, every time I see that waitress, she greets me with the words, "So how's your dad?" How many of us can leave that kind of an impression in so short a time? My dad was born to a family poor in money but rich in love. As was typical of the times, his father was not much involved in child rearing, but fortunately he had his mother and 3 older sisters to love and take care of. His youth was not easy, but he worked hard and eventually went to medical school, after his father had pointed out that being a doctor might be a good idea, since doctors' offices always seem to be pretty full. So he worked 3 janitorial jobs to pay his way through medical school and came out the other side as a child psychiatrist. And he actually had a very distinguished career. Eventually he was afforded the honor of being elected the president of the Illinois Council of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry. He was very successful professionally and had a great impact on many lives as a physician. But this impact pales in comparison to the tremendous impact he had on those that he touched in his personal life. Now, many of you here remember the 4th of July parties by the pool, and I believe that this is where the totality of my father's impact showed best. The guest list varied from people who he knew since childhood to people he had met simply weeks before. Every year there were appearances by friends of mine and all of my siblings, and often this was the only day of the year that we would see these friends. Countless aunts, uncles, and cousins would come as well. Some year the guests numbered as much as 100, and they all came to see the master of ceremonies, Bob. He would stand in a corner in his usual pose, drink in one hand, cigarette in the other, regaling those in attendance with jokes and stories, and listening attentively to their stories as well. Everyone came year after year because they all felt at home with Dr. They knew he loved them, and they loved him too. Over the past 10 years, his body began to fail, and he was no longer quite the same man. He was no longer able to command a room in the same way that he had in his younger years. But a funny thing happened as this occurred. Instead of him working a room, the room started to work him. Wherever he sat, people would come, because while his body was failing, his mind never did. He still had the quickest of wit, even if he had to lean a little closer to hear the jokes. He may have lost his strength, but he never lost his ability to bring a smile to the face of those around him. During his life, my father experienced the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. He had the great fortune of finding love with 3 women, but the misfortune of losing 2 of these loves early. He experienced the joy of siring 6 children, only to have the unspeakable tragedy of 2 of them proceed to heaven before him. I still vividly remember his anguished wailing as we walked out of this very same church at my sister's funeral. Now, many people under such circumstances turn emotionally cold and close themselves off to emotion to avoid further pain. But I believe that these tragedies had the opposite effect on my father. These losses made him realize that he needed to suck every last drop of nectar out of his experiences with people, since he never knew when the end might be. I think this is why he had so many friends, because when you were with Bob, you were living. As much as he enjoyed his time with friends, he truly cherished his time with his family. I'll never forget the look of contentment in his face when he was with his grandchildren and children. He was not especially demonstrative or effusive with praise or statements that expressed his feelings. you could see his happiness and pride within him when he was with his family. For Bob, however, family was defined not just by blood, although blood relations were sacrosanct, but also by shared experience. Throughout my life, I saw many additions to our family who bore no blood relation. They were simply people that Dad fell in love with and who reciprocated that love. Many of these people in the church today. And the oldest example of these adopted family members, my Uncle Jerry, and the newest example, my dad's confidant and friend Albert, were both there with Sharon, his children, and his sisters on the night of his passing. He would have had it no other way. Another one of them, his best man's wedding to Sharon, Joan Icazzi, even passed away earlier the very same day and was waiting for him with St. Peter. Talk about setting an advance man. My dad loved telling jokes. I think that most people tell jokes because they like the way they feel when other people laugh at their jokes. I truly believe my dad told jokes because he loved the way the laughter made the other person feel. He loved to see happiness in others, and he had the God-given gift to bring smiles to their faces. What greater gift is there than that? We will all miss these Bob-generated smiles. He even went out with a joke. In his last minutes of conscious life, a nurse commented to him, "Aren't you sad to be leaving the hospital since you won't have all these pretty ladies to look at anymore?" And he responded, "Are you looking at different women than I am?" That was classic Bob. Dad had the dubious honor of being a eulogy specialist. He gave at least 6 eulogies during his life, all of which he claims were extemporaneous with no rehearsal. In the hospital last week, he said to Sharon and I that he wanted to give his own eulogy. Literally, videotaped himself giving his own eulogy. And he had mentioned this desire several times before as well. Unfortunately, procrastinator that it was, he left us before he got it done, leaving me to do the dirty work. As I was composing this eulogy, I tried to imagine why he would want to do this, what he wanted to say. Do you want to tell Kate, Jackson, Maddie, and Ava? Are you sorry you couldn't get on the floor to play with them? And let him know the immeasurable joy he had by simply seeing them and seeing the happiness that they brought his sons. Did he want to tell Sharon that she was a worthy intellectual foil for the past 30 years, and that he appreciated her sticking around when other women might have left? Did he want to apologize to Larry for earlier mistakes and tell him how much he cherished growing close in friendship with him in his later years, and how proud he is in him for overcoming his demons and pursuing further education? We tell Jason in no uncertain terms how proud he is of his accomplishments, and even more proud he is of what an exemplary father he is to Maddie and Ava, the type of father that he wished he could have been to us. Would he tell Michael that he is sorry for leaving before Michael was fully established in life? Or would he rather explain that he felt he could leave now because he knew that Michael had the chops to handle life without him? As I pondered what he wanted to say to me, I finally realized why he wanted to give the eulogy. It wasn't because he wanted the last word, or because he wanted to tell us something important. He wanted to do it so that none of us would have to. He had done enough eulogies that he knew what it involved. He didn't want my brothers or I to have to go through the traumatic process of doing this. He carried a tremendous amount of guilt from being away so much when we were children, and regretted his younger days when he had difficulties in establishing closeness with his children. But in this case, he had figured out a way to provide help. He wanted to protect his children from pain and sadness, even in the end. I'm glad he never got around to doing it. Because I'm similar to him in my discomfort at times with showing emotion. Despite our prodigious vocabularies and erudition, I think that we both feel emotions so strongly that at times it feels like words are insufficient substitutes. So this eulogy, I guess, was meant to be my chance to let him know in words how I feel. Although I know he always knew. And Dad, I'll let you in a little secret. We always knew as well. Dad, you were loved by many because you gave love better than anyone else. Not always through your words, but through your actions. You were like the sun of a solar system comprised of hundreds of family, friends, and acquaintances, with everyone gravitating around you and your energy. We'll all miss sharing a laugh with you, but you will still put a smile on our faces every time we think of you. We wish you peace and happiness in your continuing journey. And we look forward to seeing you again